Christopher John Holmes, born June 23, 1958 in Glendale, California, is a heavy metal guitarist and songwriter who grew up in La Canada, California. Holmes started his musical career in the Pasadena, California area in the late 1970s and early 1980s. He is best known as the lead guitarist of heavy metal band W.A.S.P. Together with Blackie, Lawless and Randy Piper, he was one of the founding members of the band. Holmes was a member of W.A.S.P. first from 1982 to 1990, and again from 1996 to 2001. Career W.A.S.P. Prior to meeting Blackie, Lawless and Randy Piper, and joining W.A.S.P., Holmes played guitar with Los Angeles bands Buster Savage, Lax, and Slave. Holmes joined W.A.S.P. in 1982, and remained with the group until 1990. In 1996 Holmes rejoined W.A.S.P., and remained lead guitarist until 2001. Holmes has not played with W.A.S.P. since. Randy Piper unregistered trademark S Animal Holmes was contacted by friend and former bandmate Randy Piper to join Piper's new project, Animal. Holmes quickly relocated to Ohio to prepare for Animal's upcoming 900-pound steam tour. The tour was considered successful, and after its conclusion, Animal recorded tracks for a new album. After Animal After Holmes returned to Los Angeles in late 2003, he began working with several Southern California-based metal groups, producing and contributing guitar tracks. In 2007, Holmes was involved with the filming of a Randy Rhoads documentary directed by Peter M. Margulies, which has yet to be released. Holmes appears briefly in a 2009 episode of VH1's Rock Docs, Do It for the Band, The Women of Sunset Strip. In the summer of 2009 Holmes released Secret Society's Death by Misadventure. Where Angels Suffer and Solo Career In 2010, he joined Where Angels Suffer with Randy Piper on guitar, Steve Ungar on bass, Rich Lewis on vocals, and Stit Howland on drums. Ira Black has since replaced Piper. The band toured Europe for the first time in 2011. On November 26, 2012, Chris released his first solo album Nothing to Lose and decided to produce, manage and distribute it himself along with his wife. After the success of his first album, Chris started recording his second solo album, Shitting Bricks. On May 2, 2015, Chris Holmes released his second album Worldwide and had his first concert in Nantes, France with his new band Mean Man, which consists of Thomas Cesario guitar, Pascal Bailly bass and Fouquet Bucas on the drums. They are touring actually in Europe. 2 of the songs were filmed live, and uploaded to his YouTube channel. The Metal Years interview. While a member of W.A.S.P., Holmes participated in the filming of the documentary film, The Decline of Western Civilization Part 2, The Metal Years. The film included interviews with many well-known heavy metal personalities of the era discussing their lifestyle and the metal scene in late 1980s Los Angeles. Holmes' contribution to the 1988 documentary is perhaps the most memorable, as he was interviewed while floating in a swimming pool, fully clothed and visibly quite intoxicated while his mother sat poolside. The interview stood out in stark contrast to the more light-hearted and humorous interviews conducted by director Penelope Spheres, which mostly portrayed rockers as good-natured, though often dim-witted or deluded, party animals. During the interview, Holmes smiled drunkenly at the camera, deeming himself a full-blown alcoholic, and a piece of crap despite his band's success, and punctuated his remarks by guzzling from 3 bottles of vodka. At the end of the interview, Holmes upends a full bottle of Smirnoff over his head as he rolls out of his inflatable chair and into the water. Personal life. Chris Holmes has been married 3 times. First to Keon Rogers in the late 1980s, then briefly to Lita Ford in the early 1990s. He is now married to Catherine Sarah Holmes, whom he wed in 2012. The couple currently resides in Cannes, France. Guitars. Jackson Custom Rhodes. Used in the movie The Dungeon Master. Returned after Chris was offered an endorsement from Jackson Charvel. Jackson Charvel Custom Parts Star. Jackson Custom Star. Jackson Custom Rhodes. Jackson Custom Rhodes. Sold on eBay, currently residing in Finland. Jackson Custom Star. Sold on eBay. Fender Stratocaster seen once on a TV show. Jackson Custom Star. Smashed by Lita Ford. Jackson Flying V. Jackson Custom Kelly. Gibson Flying V. Ibanez Destroyer. Ampersand Custom. Ibanez Destroyer. In an interview, Holmes said that this guitar was borrowed by Eddie Van Halen for the recording of the Women and Children First album. The guitar can be seen in the Niels Lazoa Women and Children First Sunset Sound studio photographs. Eddie had a similar Ibanez Destroyer that he modified after recording Van Halen into the Shark Destroyer. Eddie did not like the tone after the modification, so he borrowed Chris Holmes's Ibanez Destroyer. Holmes' red Ibanez Destroyer is distinctive as it was modified to have only a single volume control, whereas usually there are two volume and one tone control. The red Ibanez Destroyer is now in the possession of the Tone Zone's Doug Anderson as part of his collection of Van Halen memorabilia, often referred to as the Van Halen Museum. References: Van Halen News Desk, Van Halen, All Cut Up. VHND.com. November 18, 2008. Retrieved November 24, 2009. 24 July 2008. Van Halen All Cut Up. YouTube. Retrieved November 24, 2009. External links: Chris Holmes, Your Baroque Interview 2013, Chris Holmes, Your Baroque Interview 2014, Chris Holmes Nothing to Lose Your Baroque Album Review, Chris Holmes, Interview, Theory Unregistered Trademark Essay Lot of People Idonia Unregistered Trademark T like February 25, 2011, Chris Holmes Official Website.